Hello and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, powered by BetUS. My name is Andrew Claudio, a.k.a. GMAC. The New York Knicks defeat the San Antonio Spurs 117-114 in a Christmas Day matinee, potentially even a classic, depending on where that alien's career goes throughout the next however many decades. The Knicks with an incredible, thrilling first game of this 5-game slate for the NBA. They overcome just an otherworldly performance from Victor Wembanyama, and it's showcased, headlined, whatever you want to say Mikal Bridges was. Every single one of his points today was important. What he did on the defensive end was important. They finally win a close game, a game they had to pull out down the stretch, and we'll break it all down. But most importantly, thank you to all of you tuning in to the KFS Christmas Day post-game show. Obviously, happy holidays. Whether it's Christmas, whether it's the first day of Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating, thank you for taking time out of it to check me out here on the post-game show. This has been a bit of a tradition that I get saddled with the Christmas Day duty. It's something I enjoy doing. Shout out to not having kids. I'm able to do it. But at the same time, it was also really thrilling to do it after this game, where if you want a quick reaction to the game, obviously you're excited about the Knicks win. The story is Mikal Bridges to start from a Knicks perspective. I'll just read a stat line real quick. 41 points on 17 of 25 shooting, 6 of 9 from 3. Also has 4 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Look, I share part of the hysteria because it wasn't just this platform. Got pulled onto a bit of a national platform with Sam Vecini to talk about what's going on with Mikal Bridges. And I do want to make it clear, I did, in any of my consternation and frustration and worry about how he was playing through the first 20 or so games, I did want to mention it was 20 or so games. And it's almost as if hitting a version of rock bottom, because the Atlanta Hawks game wasn't actually rock bottom, but it was, I think, the lowest point of this early season stretch where the Knicks were still figuring things out. And since then, the Knicks have won 5 games in a row. I believe 5 games in a row. They dropped to 15-10 against the Hawks. And since then, Mikal Bridges has played his best basketball. I think the Knicks have also played their best basketball. But who knew that getting a week and a half off to maybe get in some practices would help? But Mikal has also just turned his play around. He had actually turned it around a little bit before the Hawks game, but really these last 5 games, both on the offensive end and on the defensive end, he's been outstanding. And it really culminated today with what we saw. Look, Wemby was going off, and I'll talk about him in a second, and it seemed like it was bucket for bucket in that fourth quarter, that anytime Wemby hit a 3, Mikal would hit a 3. Anytime Wemby would hit a shot, Mikal would hit a shot. Who built that as the marquee matchup today? The 2 all-stars, all-NBA candidates, Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns struggling in this game, and it's Mikal Bridges who goes shot for shot with Victor Wembanyama in this. So, look, a lot's been made of the pick package that was sent out for this man, and 5 picks and a bunch of swaps, and Bojan Bogdanovic. Keep the change, you filthy animals. I am happy to go to war with this man for the next however many years, because that's the thing. It's not like they traded for an aging superstar. No, they got one of the best role players in the league who elevated his game to a pretty high status when the Knicks needed it the most. So shout out to Mikal Bridges for how you performed today. Look, we just got to talk about Wemby for a second. I was happy with how the Knicks went old school with how they won this game. I'll say that. 17 offensive rebounds. When I say old school, I mean like how they won games last year, really dominating the possession battle. That final possession felt like something we were used to, something we had seen a ton last year, where even when the other team gets a stop, the back-breaking offensive rebound. Josh Hart, I believe, with one of them, and then he pokes away the ball at the end of the game to make sure that the Spurs don't get the ball at the end. So that, of course, matters. Victor Wembanyama finishes this game with 42 points, 18 rebounds, 4 blocks, 4 assists, hit 6 threes. He shot more threes than I expected him to do. 6 of 16 from 3 in this game. I actually was going to live with it. him taking 16 threes, which you won't live with, is the 42 points that he ended up making today. For most of this game, they had Karl-Anthony Towns guarding him, got into foul trouble, eventually had to sit for most of the fourth quarter down the stretch. And look, our X's and O's guys were calling for it. DJ and Benji were saying it before the game. Do you go with Cat on Wemby, or do you switch it to OG and Anunoby on Wemby? And for that final stretch, Cat checked out after Wemby hit a three that eventually was overturned because there was a foul committed by Cat, his fifth foul that knocked Chris Paul to the ground. Cat checks out, and the Knicks went over the next 4.5 minutes with a lineup that didn't have Jalen Brunson or Karl-Anthony Towns. And over that stretch, they ended up taking a 5-point lead in that stretch. The entire run actually went to, it was at 7:16 left. Jalen Brunson checked out, and the Knicks were down 8. And when he checked back into the game, the Knicks were up by 4. So I'll do the math, or someone can do the math for me, but that just is one of the most crucial parts of the game, and potentially one of the most crucial parts of this run that they're on, that they're learning how to win games without their best players performing well. That was huge during this game. So I've stalled it long enough. Victor Wembanyama. So you guys know I'm a movie fan. If it's your first time here, I'm big into movies. I say that just, I'm a cinephile. I see as many as I can throughout the course of the year. Not an expert or critic by any means. I just loved going to the movies. And one of my favorite franchises, as awful as it has become, is Jurassic Park. And I don't know how many of you, well, I'm sure a lot of you did, because that movie made so much money, but Jurassic World, the remake or the reboot of the franchise from 2015. So the story of that movie, if I can use an analogy, is that they figured it out how to make this park working and commercialized, and it's like up and running, even though despite in the first 3 movies it failed not once, not twice, on 2 different islands. But then they brought dinosaurs back to California, and that was a national, potentially even international disaster and tragedy. And somehow it's unexplained that they got Jurassic Park to work, Jurassic World to work, and it's on these 2 islands, and it's basically an amusement park. And the conflict of that movie in the beginning is that kids are bored with dinosaurs today, so we got to go bigger. And they use all the different scientific ways to create a super dinosaur, right? I don't even know what the name of the thing was, the holy shitosaurus. Like they basically create the Barry Bonds of, or in this case, the Wemby of dinosaurs, because humans are stupid. And for some reason, there's a cage that this thing has that has a door the size of the dinosaur, which you don't want it to get out. Just make the size of the door the size of a human, and it will never get out. But the dinosaur gets out, and it goes hunting. And Chris Pratt has a line that this thing is experiencing this world for the first time. And eventually this thing's going to figure out where it is on the food chain, and the rest of the population on the island is doomed. And I feel like that's where we are with Victor Wembanyama, that he just got out of his cage when he got into the NBA, and he's still figuring out where he is on the food chain. And at a certain point, it's just going to be game over for the rest of the population in the league, which is why it's probably good the Knicks got this win, because who knows how many wins against Victor Wembanyama there are going to be over the course of his career. He was sensational. You saw in a season high 40 minutes, you saw just how impactful, to borrow XJ's word, he was. The Knicks, it almost seemed like when they knew he was at the rim, okay, this is the time to take a 3. And then if they pulled him away from the rim, it's almost as if they knew, okay, let's get a shot at the rim. Even if it wasn't a good shot, it's just like, now's the time to get to the rim. He was all over the floor. That goaltend that got reversed because the ball was technically still going up, where he blocks it at the top of the box on the backboard. There's going to be a portion of his career where he's like the 2017 Warriors, not as like the team, but he's just that unstoppable. And my goodness, that was just an insane performance. And I'm glad the Knicks got the win despite that insane performance. The guy was +7 in a game that the team lost by 3. So we'll see what happens with his career. I project big things, obviously. As far as the rest of the game is concerned, interesting Brunson game. As I mentioned, checks out of the game with about 7.5 minutes left. The Knicks go on a bit of a run without him. He's on the floor for the final couple minutes as the Knicks close things out. But really, they were running the show through Mikal Bridges. Karl-Anthony Towns, again, got into foul trouble. Interesting choice by Tibbs. I think this is one of the toughest things for coaches. You're kind of seeing it right now in Minnesota when your quote unquote best players don't have it, but you feel obligated to put them back in the game to figure it out because they're quote unquote your best players. And the hierarchy of the NBA, well, if your team trusts the coach, and more importantly, if that best player trusts the coach, he can make a decision like today where Cat barely plays over the final 6.5 minutes because he's in foul trouble and because the guy who came in for him, Precious Achiuwa, was doing so much better than him guarding Wemby. That was just an impressive final 6.5 minutes by a team that didn't play most of those minutes without their two best players, without Brunson and without Cat. Anunoby, I thought that switch of putting him onto Wemby, those 3 possessions, I thought that were very key in getting stops, but specifically from Anunoby. Deuce McBride only hit 2 shots today, but both of those threes he hit felt pretty big. He hit a 3 during the final 5 minutes in clutch time that felt big. And then the first 3 he hit was only it only made it like, I believe it cut a lead in half or whatever, but the Knicks started 1 of 14 from 3, and then Deuce hit a 3. And it was, okay, like they're 2 of 15. Like we've seen them go in. They're 1 for their last 1. And then the Knicks, after starting 4 of 21 from 3 in the first half, finished 9 of 18 in the second half. Just a solid win. I'm curious to hear what the status update from Campaign is. Campaign only played 5 minutes, got hurt on 1 play, and then checked out and never came back in. The Knicks already played eight guys today. We'll see if this shortens the rotation anymore. Ironically, on a day where they only really played 7 guys, only 1 guy played over 40 minutes. So anybody minutes policing, it was just Mikal Bridges, who played 43 minutes, was a +8 in those minutes over the course of the game. Josh Hart, I thought he did all the Josh Hart things, 12, 12, and 6. The 3 he hit, they were down 102-97. Defense left him wide open. A very tired defense, too, I'll say. Left him wide open, and he still got the hit a 3. And then, again, it forced a timeout. And then that's the thing about Josh Hart. He seems to always, despite the game plan being let him shoot, he seems to always hit the 3, the biggest 3 you need, when teams are letting him shoot. So good job by him. And then look, just as a big picture thing to wrap up, because I don't think there's anybody else to talk about. OG Anunoby started off missing shots, hit some big 3s in the second half, only finished with 8 points, but I thought his defense was outstanding, especially on Wemby down the stretch. Big picture. Look, I went into the season curious, especially when you make a pretty seismic trade 2 days before training camp. And at times when they've had to figure it out, it's looked bad. And I share in the emotional swings of remembering how much we admired last season, and the burden of expectations can create some real down points when this team loses. And I was really happy that we saw them pull out a W with a combination of what is working this year and, what worked last year. Them really having to fight this one out, especially down the stretch, seemed important. And for them to now have two national TV games showcasing different identities, where you have the Minnesota game from a week ago, literally a week ago tomorrow, where it's Cat's return to Minnesota against a team that had won 6 out of 7, that was giving up less than 100 points every night. And in one night, they embarrassed the Wolves, have sent them into a bit of a tailspin. And the story is them taking down a top 5 defense with 133 points, showcasing a very elite offense. And then you had a game like this where your 2 best players didn't have it as much as you'd like them to. Cat, I thought Cat had a good third quarter, but obviously the foul trouble was a thing trying to guard Wemby. And this felt like a group effort instead. So it's not just about the ceiling of when the big guns are going, how good can it get? Now it's about can the entire whole collectively get you a W. So the Knicks have won 5 straight. They're 20-10 on the season. And look, for all the frustrations and the up and down mood swings of what this season has been so far, I stare at the NBA standings, not the like the Eastern Conference or even the division standings, the NBA standings. The Knicks are 20-10, currently tied with Memphis for the 5th best record in the NBA, 1.5 game behind Houston for the 4th best record. Houston's 20-9 on the season. And Boston, this unbeatable team that is uncatchable. And how will the Knicks ever compete with them? Just 2.5 games back of Boston through the first 30 games of the season. If you told me at the beginning, how about this? If you told me after that first game where they got run off the court by the defending champs, that 29 games later, these two teams would be separated by 2.5 games. The Knicks would have one of the best offenses in the league and would be really starting to figure it out on all phases, not just offensively, but defensively. Mikal Bridges is starting to cook. They have a starting lineup that's performing well. Cat's an MVP candidate, and they'd have 2 all-star candidates. I just signed up for that. So it's a merry Knicksmas indeed here at Knicks Film School. I'll go to, I think I got to go to the game log for this because I stopped taking notes at a certain point, but we got to do the autograph signature moment at this point. Shout out to the fine folks at Autograph. Download the Autograph app, whichever phone service you have. Download the Autograph app, and you can check out when John goes live and participates in some of their segments, whether it's the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Check out Autograph first chance you get. I got to be honest, my signature moment, it's either one of the Mikal Bridges heat checks, one of the fadeaways that he hit down the 4th quarter, or it's the final possession of the game where the Knicks had the ball for the final. Let me double check this. The Knicks had the ball after Chris Paul made a 3. Knicks called timeout with 38 seconds left. And let's see. Brunson missed the pull-up. Didn't like that play call. Going ISO Brunson. I know he's Jalen Brunson. Didn't love it. Brunson misses a shot. Josh Hart offensive rebound. OG misses a contested 3. Josh Hart offensive rebound. Knicks win. So that would be my first candidate. There's so many shots down the stretch by Mikal Bridges. With 118, he hit a shot to make it 116 to 111. At 159 left, he hit a shot up 112, 111. He hit a shot to put them up 3. The deuce 3 that I'm talking about, it was 109, 109, and Deuce McBride hit a 3 with 2:43 left to make it 112 to 109. See, that's what I'm saying. Jalen Brunson comes back in the game with 2:17 left with the Knicks up 112 to 110. Jalen Brunson checked out with them down 102 to 94. And it was 7:16 left. So a near exact 5-minute stretch without the captain. And the Knicks outscored. Let me see if I can do math on the fly. It was 102 to 97. And when he checked back in, oh man, you're going to get to watch the wheels turning on me. So the Spurs scored 8 points during that stretch. They went from 102 to 110. The Knicks went from 94 to 112. That's 18. Yeah, so an 18-8 run over that stretch. I'm actually very proud that I got that math. So that's my signature moments, that 5-minute stretch where the Knicks, without the cap in the game. And like I said, the Chris Paul foul that was a Wemby 3 that then got overturned happened 2 plays after Brunson leaves the game, where Cat picks up a foul, Achua checks in at 9. It was 102 to 97 when that happened. So it ends up being a 15 to 10 run without Cat and Brunson in the game. So shout out to the New York Knicks. This is good. This is the second year in a row that the Knicks have won on Christmas when I've gotten to do the post game.